guys. This is a Patreon exclusive interview, Horror 365. I am the host that covers the most, Jimmy J, alongside with the South Jersey slasher himself, South Jersey Jason. And today, this man needs no introduction. Jason is alive. Jason lives right here, Horror 365, the man behind the mask. And Jason lives, the one and the only CJ Graham. Mr. Graham, how are you today, bud?
Hey, Jimmy J, thanks for having me on Horror 365. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, I'm excited. I got a little butterflies. What about you, Brian? I'm feeling it right now. We got Mr. Graham on the show.
You know, yeah, today, all day, I was like at work and I'm like, is it time yet? Is it time to talk to CJ Graham? Because I've met you twice. And, you know, at a first time at Monster Mania back in 2013, and then more recently, 2019 at Jason Fest. I was there the whole weekend, and, you know, I got a little bit of time to talk with you, but it's like a fanboy's dream come true to spend an hour with one of, in my opinion, the best Jasons to don the hawk.
All right, now that you're done saying that, I want next time you interview Kane Hodder, I want to hear if you say that to him.
Listen, if he's not in front of me, okay,
yeah,
we can put a
exactly.
stranglehold on me.
That was a good social media pick for you to say it that way. Good job.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because when I had you sign my hockey mask, you put a little X to where Kane usually signs, and you said, you tell him I put it there. And I was actually supposed to go to Monster Mania March of last year to do a in-person photo op with you in costume, but unfortunately it was canceled. But I was also going to bring that hockey mask to have Kane sign and relay the message.
Yeah, I mean, I've known him for many years, and he always signs. He likes the top spot, you know. And he's done 4 of them. I respect it. So I will sometimes leave the spot for him and make a giggle, make a little X so he knows where to sign, and pass that on through a fan. And of course, you know, it makes him proud and happy, but it kind of, oh, gee, BJ. That's what he calls me.
So CJ, what was your introduction to the horror genre as a kid growing up?
You know, I'm old, guys. You know, you guys are young.
Come
men.
on.
You got to realize I was in the military 46 years ago. So I was exposed to more of the Universal Studios, you know, Frankenstein and Dracula, the Mummy, Werewolf. You know, those 4 were the ones that I was exposed to, and it did its justice for probably 4 decades. And then as the early 80s started to develop, maybe in 78, Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface came into the picture, which have completely went 4 generations, you know, as far as 40 years. And now we have some out there that have done well and are doing well, and they're great. And we'll see how they are in 2 decades or 3 decades.
I don't think it'll hold up to Friday the 13th. I mean, this franchise withstands time. I'm telling you, man, it's still popular. They're still selling merchandise.
Yeah, you know, I'm very fortunate, guys. I mean that, and when I look at it, who knew? You know, so I'm very humbly appreciative. The one thing that I found, I retired about 4 years ago, and found that there was this wide open availability for convention space for the guy behind the hockey mask. And for me, it's just a nice experience. I have fun. I meet the fans. I get to travel every once in a while. I go to Germany, Sweden, England to do a show, Canada, and of course throughout the incredible United States. I get to go through, and I didn't expect that when I stepped away from running casino resorts. So for me, it's just kind of great. And the hockey mask has become so iconic worldwide. And I always tell people, you know, we're not A-listers by any means, you know, but if you go to India and show a picture of Tom Cruise, everybody's going to know it's Tom Cruise. You show a picture of CJ Graham, they're all going to look like you. What are you, nuts? But if you show a picture of that hockey mask from Jason, they all say Jason. So
Yeah.
it does have a representation. I'm very fortunate to be part of that.
Well, CJ, you know, you talked about a couple things outside of Friday the 13th. One was military. What branch did you serve? And how long were you in the military for?
I was in the Army 4 years. I was back in the early 70s. Got an honorable discharge. I was 11 Bravo 20, which means I was a grunt infantry.
Okay.
Spent some time in the States, some time overseas, and worked on guarding nuclear missiles. They were called Persian 2s over when we were still East Germany and West Germany. and we weren't on good terms. So that was back in the 70s.
I mean, I could tell, man. You have, I don't know, you just got the military look, and I could definitely see you on infantry. My brother's a Marine. He was intel, but
You
you're a
know,
big dude. I
those
can't.
Marines, we give those Marines. It's I always tell them it's okay to make one mistake in their life, and they win the Marines. What you gotta do?
Oh
You know,
man.
but let me put it out there for it because there's going to be a Marine going, "Oh yeah." But I
Yeah,
want to tell
somebody.
you one thing about the Marines, and I've got a lot of buddies that are former Marines. There's never ex-Marines; they're former, and they used to always say, "Well, God, CJ, you went in the Army and yada yada." And I said, "Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't your paychecks in the right corner say Department of Navy?"
That's true.
And it is true. And they give you that eyeball. Well, you're not supposed to know that. But I had a Marine last year come back at me with something, and I got to repeat it because it was so good. He said,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, they were just Uber for us."
Oh man.
You know what? I stand corrected on that one. So, hoorah.
Well, I gotta ask you, I mean, military man, okay. Did you run? Because I know for those that don't know, let me just say it right now, you had a spa resort. Was it Agua Caliente, I think? I think I said it right. Spa resort and casino in California, Rancho Mirage. Um, how was that like? Did you run that military style? How was it like
No,
running a casino
Or
though?
Jason style.
Jason style, yeah.
I was the chief operating officer, general manager of two casino resorts down in Coachella Valley, Agua Caliente and Rancho Mirage, and Agua Caliente in Palm Springs. And I had, give or take, 23 to 2,500 employees on any given day.
Wow.
No, I learned actually from the military what to do and what not to do. I'm a pretty good politician. I see things. I've always seen things through different colors. It's not black and white. And I always try to define what a compromise will look like. And like I always tell people, very simply put, there's three words that I think any executive or a young executive coming up should listen to because I have done it. I've been successful with it. Qualify, quantify, simplify. Simple. Don't make it complicated. As soon as you complicate the issue, the only person that understands the mission is you. So now going back to the job in the military, the whole unit, the whole platoon has to understand the mission because if one of us go down, the person next to you has to finish the mission. And I kind of did take that forward, but I did not rule by intimidation. I ruled by leadership.
Yeah, man, that's the only way to do it, I think. And do you have any like fond memories working in the casino?
Oh yeah, I did it for 25, 30 years almost. And it was great to me. I started as just a dealer, security first.
Oh wow.
Then I learned to deal cards within 6 months and became a dealer. I actually wore a pink shirt in Reno, Nevada, dealing blackjack and roulette and craps. And then over the years, I spent some time in the acting stunt industry. And then I went back to the casino industry and worked my way up through all the different ranks to general manager and chief operating officer.
Oh wow. I mean, could you tell us maybe is there anything that they don't tell the gamblers in there that you can unveil? Or so because I'm a
Well,
gambling guy. I play a little blackjack, a little roulette.
right. Well, I'll give you three things.
Okay.
I was a executive at the Palms in Las Vegas, and
Okay.
you used to always hear that thing about what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, we used to say what happens at the Palms never happened.
Oh
So,
man.
so with that being said, let me put it this way: blackjack, double deck is your best odds.
Okay.
Period. Slot machines, stay away from a penny machine. Usually over 50% of your units on a floor are slots. Anybody can look the information up if they want to explore. The hold is around 15%. You can go down to
Mm.
quarter machines, dollar machines, $25 machines, and $100 machines, and $500 machines, and the hold can go down to less than a half a point.
So stay away from pennies, penny machines.
Never. They're the most profitable for us in the game industry, but they're the most entertaining for the consumer, and that's why consumers play them. They just have such a great time with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too. It's like they have your favorite TV show or something like that, and it's just the free games everybody plays for. And I
Right.
try
Well,
I try to
if
stay
you're going
away.
in a casino, you want to go into a casino for an entertainment feature. And if you can afford $40 or $100 and you were entertained with the machine for a period of time and had some fun, that should be your goal. If you're going in to win, you went to the wrong place. Casinos aren't built on winners. Yes, people do win, a lot of people, but a lot more people lose. So there's a counterbalance there.
That's true. And you know, CJ, that's obviously you're not working there anymore, right? In the
No,
casino?
sir. I retired about 4 years ago.
4 years. I'm sorry. Yeah, you did say that. So, and that was in California. Now, I don't know if you mind me saying this. You're out of Montana,
I'm
correct?
in Montana. So yeah, I worked about 10 years in the gaming industry. I was the general manager of Thunder Valley Resort up in Northern California, which is $1 billion resort. And then before that, I was with Palms. I was with Steve Wynn and Caesars.
Oh, wow. My question though, like from California to Montana, the quality of life. You and I spoke off air about this. I mean, could you just tell us the difference between like California and Montana, just the quality of life?
So you want me to take a swipe at California? Is that what you're saying? I mean, just,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what I'm saying. So, yeah, take it,
I don't know
machete
if I told
slash.
you I'm very good at politically correct. You know, I enjoyed things about California, but I will tell you it has shifted. It's not the same California I knew from the 80s. It's just different. And it's not that that's a bad thing. Some people interpret that as a swipe. It's not intentionally. I just know a different California than it is today. Period. And you know, I'm not a big fan of being overtaxed because management is making bad decisions with my taxes. When you run a casino resort, you got to realize it's a $500-600 million in revenues. It's $100 million payroll. And if I did some of the things that people do with the money that's turned over to them the way they do in some areas, and it's not just California, but in some states, I'd be fired the next day. You know, you can't come to the table with $100 million proposal to build a road or an expansion of the casino, and it costs 250 million at the end of the day. It doesn't work that way. It's $100 million project. You stay on budget.
Switch gears a little bit here, Brian. I know you had some questions about Jason Lives.
Yeah, sure. So August 1st is going to be the 35th anniversary of Jason Lives. And so I did my research, as I always do before these interviews, and I knew this already, but it just refreshed my memory. You were discovered for Jason, coincidentally, in a nightclub portraying Jason. The casting director saw you. And did they leave a card to say, hey, you know, we saw you, you look great, or did they talk to you that night?
Well, you know, there's a little bit of flavor there, so I'll square it up a little bit.
Okay.
I was the general manager of a 15,000 square foot nightclub in Los Angeles. Holds about 1,800 people, so that's a pretty big club. On Thursday nights, I had a hypnotist show, and the hypnotist would have subjects on stage and do different things. Well, he decided to have a company come in and produce a video of his show so he could have a promotional tape. In doing so, he brought a company in called Real Effects, REEL, Real Effects. They just happened to be the folks that did part 4 with Ted White. So they told Jack, is his name, the hypnotist, why don't we do a Jason and come through the screen and scare the subjects? And they looked at my big ass and said, we'll use CJ, you know, look at the size of him. And we have the wardrobe, and the rest is history. I mean that sincerely. I came through and they were like, well, you know, we're going to cast you. We're going to cast you. I go, whatever. And a few months later, lo and behold, I was sitting in Frank Mancuso Jr.'s office in Paramount Studios.
Very nice. See, now when I was reading it online and taking notes, I'm like, well, it's Vegas. It's a nightclub. Was he Magic Mike before Magic Mike? But all right.
Well, you know what? Let's go that since you asked.
Oh.
If you did your research, you'll know that I did work at Chippendales in Culver City.
I knew it.
I didn't want to jump to any conclusions.
That's who my wife was looking at. Son of Jesus.
I'm looking up here. I've still got my cuffs and collars and
oh wow,
photo from
very
1987.
nice, very nice. So other than your time in the military, because you did use your military training for how you portray Jason, you did say you did spend some time in stunt actor school. How much of it was military and what you learned in the stunt, or was it a little combination of both?
So I'm going to give you some more flavor.
Okay.
I never went to stunt school.
Okay. I thought you said earlier you did, no? Okay.
I've never been to stunt school. I'd never done a stunt in my life when I did the movie.
Okay.
So everything was OJT, on the job training. So I did was apply my physical characteristics that I picked up in the military, because I'm I'm a little larger than normal. You know, I'm
Mhm.
not an average sized person like normal. And I was fortunate enough that when I was given the opportunity, there was some luck. I was given the job and I was able to perform. And one thing about being in the military, you do your job.
Mhm.
And I was able to step in and do my job. So even a good friend of mine, Kane Hodder, and Steve Dash, a few years ago, we were on a panel and they were all talking about where'd you go to stunt school, their stunt experience. And when it came to me, I said, well, I didn't have any. And Kane Hodder looked at me and goes, what do you mean you didn't have any? I go, I've never done a stunt in my life. You didn't go to school? No. You mean you just walked out there and did it? I said, yeah.
Hey, listen, that's military right there, man. I mean,
Yeah.
did you have any difficulties though, like doing that in the costume, doing some of the stunts in the costume?
No, I was mid 20s, probably cocky. Uh, you know, maybe a little abrasive. I don't remember, to be honest. I mean, perception is reality. So, sometimes I say things that are sarcastic in nature, like I was talking about your haircut. And I don't mean it offensively because I would never technically offend somebody on purpose. I might think it's funny in my flavor, but come back and go, that was dumb. You know what? I think a lot of it was just luck with the movie, Jimmy J. I just think that they gave me a job, and I knew from being in the military, when I did my job, and I was fortunate that I was able to deliver, I think, a decent product.
I think you did one hell of a job, CJ.
Yeah.
My favorite Friday 13th out of the franchise, part six.
Thank you.
And I got to know, like, what was
Oh,
going
wait a
through your
minute.
head?
Your favorite parts. You told me
Oh.
before this it was part 8.
See,
No,
there's that Kane
listen,
Hodder influence.
listen, hold on a second. That was when Kane was around. All right. We
Yeah,
can't do that
exactly.
right now.
Exactly.
Listen, I got enough chapstick for everybody. Now, I got to know though, like, this is your first time doing like a role like this.
Yes.
What was going through your mind when you first put on that costume?
Well, let me add to the question. My
Yeah.
first role, my first scene in the costume. You got to realize, and maybe the fans do or don't know this, but the movies are never shot sequentially.
Yeah.
So the first scene is I put the costume on, I step into POV, point of view of the camera, sideways. You can see the mobile home behind me and it's rocking. I turn and face the motorhome and tilt my head and then start walking towards it. That was my first scene. Tom McLaughlin, the writer director, said, okay, CJ, you step into scene. I want you to turn. I want just a little curiosity factor with your head. And then I want you to push your lats out and walk towards that motorhome like you're going to tip it over. And that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Eventually, I tipped it over.
You did.
But,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So some actors, when they're performing roles, stay method because they want to keep character and it makes the scenes more believable. Did you do that? Did you associate with any of your co-stars in the film, like when you're in costume, or did you have, dinner with them during breaks? What was your way of doing that?
I really stayed away from everybody, not purposely, because
Mhm.
I wasn't part of that, so to speak. I wasn't really, to be fair, an actor, an actress. I was a very fortunate individual playing a homicidal killer, and to put the costume on when they'd see me on set, I think it left a little bit of a fear factor to them, and then to include that I was pretty strong, that would terrorize them a little bit more, especially when I was blowing through walls and doors, or cables are hooked on me and a shotgun's blowing me back, 4 or 5 feet into the air. I think that was more intimidating. I kept that intimidating factor. The folks that were closest to me were the folks from Real Effects that had actually started me because they made all the effects and did all the wardrobe.
What was it like working with Tom McLaughlin?
Great. I just saw Tom McLaughlin yesterday. I saw him for 3 days, and
Oh,
Tom
nice.
Matthews,
Oh, very nice.
and Tom Finley, and Darcy.
Oh, very nice.
We
Nice.
just did a convention, Days of the Dead, in Atlanta, Georgia, this past weekend. So working for him was an honor. Knowing him, 3 decades later, it's just been a great experience. He's a good man. He's still very, very complimentary towards me and my performance. He has went and written a new script, part 13 it would be theoretically. I've seen some snidbits of what Jason would look like. I know he knows Mr. Miller and Mr. Cunningham, and if they can work their arrangement out, I'm sure he'd like to take the lead because, he was very favorable for the job he did in part 6. Your next question is, would I play it again? Because that's usually comes
Yeah.
next.
Oh yeah.
Tom has went on podcast and said he'd like me to look at the option if I was interested. My answer to Tom in person has been, because he did talk to me a couple years ago about this, but I've said, and I'll say to the fans, that if number one, I don't want to go to space. Okay, I'm not doing it. I wouldn't be doing it because they pay a lot. They don't pay heavily.
Mhm.
I would do it because if I thought the script was decent, respectful, and I could deliver a product as good as Part Six or better, I'd step into the role. But I got to be fair. If I couldn't give the fans and you a product, then I wouldn't do it. Now I'm a little older. Physically, I'm still 6'3", 250. All right. However, I want to make sure that I can give that performance, that I can do my stunts. And I don't break my body. When you're younger, you learn to tuck and roll. Now, as you get older, you go thump.
Right, right. Well, I
Yeah.
saw your videos not too long ago, maybe last week or the week before, where you put on costume and you were in the snow, and I have to say, you look just as good, if not better. 35 years ago, you still have this presence, this aura when you put on the costume.
And the fortunate thing is I'm the same physical side, and that costume is the one I have that I do that you were unable to get a photo with. It's probably 95% accurate, and it just happened to be snowing here. We had about 6, 7, 8 inches, so I put the wardrobe on and took some pictures. And again, physically, I'm the same size. The
Mhm.
wardrobe I have is spot on. It's like I just stepped out of 1986 into my backyard where the barn is and took a couple photos for fun.
It is, and that's why you need to play the part. I'm sorry. I'm going to be your advocate on this one. I'm going to tell Tom we need CJ.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
He'll probably look at me like, "Who the hell is this guy, Jimmy J?"
well, and like I told Tom, he had alluded a couple years ago about the script he was putting together, and he had made some. People would say, "Well, do you think we're gonna do it again?" And he would say little remarks like, "Oh, he will, you will," but they didn't pick up on the fact that he had already talked to me and that there was a thought of it. Now, remember, Derek Mears, '09, Jason did an amazing job, and was slotted to do two of them, which didn't materialize. So, and he's great size, physical structure, and his resume, as long as your arm, is stuff that he's done.
Mhm.
Outside of the Jason character, Kane Hodder, another good representation that's been a great, just an amazing ambassador of the Friday the 13th with the 4 that he did. And then Ken stepped in on Jason versus Freddy. And so there are availabilities. To be fair, it is a physical characteristic. It ain't like you got to be purty. you, you can look as ugly as this and get it. So it's the mask, it's the physical characteristics, and how you walk.
I want to switch gears just real quick though. Talk about the movies and the kills in the movies. What was your favorite kill as Jason?
Mine was the sheriff breaking him in half.
That was
You
brutal.
guys, you got to realize, and for everybody out there from Horror 365, the reason for that, there's no blood. There's just a cracking of a physical structure being broke. That's tremendously gross.
That's the kind of kills that I go, ugh,
Cringe, yeah.
yeah, because you hear the back break in, and I have back issues. I know what he's going through, but I right now, I think I might need that back crack.
Well, we got a chiropractor right here.
Right. And a good friend of mine, Kane Hodder, he'll tell you his favorite kill is the sleeping bag. Very similar.
Yeah.
Person is in the bag being thrown against a tree and breaking like chicken bones.
You could feel that. That's what it is. Anybody could stab somebody, slash somebody, but when you see something like that, I don't know. I feel it.
Right.
I felt that kill.
So at the premiere of Jason Lives, who did you bring?
I wasn't there.
You weren't there. What were you doing?
I'll tell you why. Because I picked up a job as a general manager of another nightclub and had to work that weekend. I was like I said, this is my job. This is my responsibility. I had to deliver. So when they had the premiere and I was invited, I was running the club.
Do you wish, if you can go back in time, would you go to the premiere?
If I know what I know today, of course, because there's a difference. But at the time, they Taft-Hartley'd me into Screen Actors Guild, which I didn't know what that meant anyway. So I wasn't really knowledgeable of it. Once I got the Screen Actors Guild card, the next club I was running was for Jackie Collins, Joan Collins' sister.
Okay.
It was called The Original Tramp of London in the Beverly Center down in Beverly Hills, members only. And I mean members like Stallone,
Oh
Prince,
wow.
Oh
Tom
wow.
Jones, etc. And it just happened a high manager came in and asked me and said, "Well, what are you doing now?" I said, "Well, I'm running the club." He goes, "Well, you have a union card, right?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, are you doing anything with it?" I go, "No." So he picked me up, and then I ended up with Cunningham commercials and another person acting. And before I knew it, I had lock and loaded on about 5 or 6 national commercials for everything from AT&T to Miller Beer to Colgate.
Very nice.
I'm a Colgate guy myself, CJ. I think we spoke about this. And also the Miller beer. I just got stocked up after seeing that commercial. I mean, we just showed it in the beginning of this. Phenomenal job, man. And do you still drink Miller? Still a Miller guy?
See, that's a loaded question. Politically speaking, I think it's a great product.
Yep.
Now, do you see how I didn't answer your question, but I gave you an
Absolutely.
answer?
Yes, you
There you
did.
go.
My name is CJ Graham, and I approve this message.
So not only is Jason Lives has a terrific story, but also has a terrific soundtrack. What was it like working with Alice Cooper?
I was very, very, very humbly appreciative. Interesting story. My very, very, very first concert in 1973 was Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. And then to have the pleasure 12 years later of working with him. And again, I see him now that I'm retired. I saw him a year ago before the COVID, which was tragic, not just because we lost people, but jobs, etc. But I did see him then. I do see him probably once a year on a regular basis. I do some photo ops with him in wardrobe, and him and I put some of the fans between us, and it's really nice. I mean, one thing I'll tell you, it's like you think about Friday the 13th Part 6. Uh, it's the only Friday the 13th that's got an opening like James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's the only Friday the 13th that Jason comes back to life like Frankenstein. It's the only Friday the 13th that has a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer doing the music, Mr. Alice Cooper. And it's the only Friday the 13th where Jason wears a Batman utility belt.
I don't know if you know this, but I sent you the photo, when we were talking, and Jason 6 is my favorite of the undead Jasons, like the look. So last year, my costume designer, James Ingram and J3 Jason Costumes, designed me a costume based off of One Customs. And it was if Part 7 had the continuity of the look in Part 6. So I call it like the New Blood Lives. That's my style costume. So, and I was so amped up to see you at Monster Mania to take a picture with you in it. But, unfortunately, other things happened that prevented it. But, I'll share it with you again. And, James Ingram actually was going to design you a costume a few years ago. You were at a convention and you had complimented someone on his Part 6 and how great it looked. And he had mentioned it was James Ingram. And you and James actually did exchange messages. And unfortunately, he was moving at the time. So I spoke with him and said, I'm talking to CJ. And he said, let CJ know if he needs like a new costume as a standby, he'd be honored to make you a whole new wardrobe.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I happened to, about 3 years ago, a fan said, why don't you do photos, costume photos? The only person that had done one up to that time was Kane Hodder. Unfortunately, it was 4 or 5 hours of wardrobe and a lot of money to have John come in and do the wardrobe for him. So it wasn't feasible financially. But mine made sense. So I worked with 4 or 5 different people to create my wardrobe. We used my personal photos from the movie. The interesting part is everything I used in that movie is readily available. The shirt is an OD green Vietnam era military shirt. I wore one in the military. The pants are Vietnam era khaki pants for your khaki uniform. I wore that in the military. It's the same pistol belt I wore. It's an 18-inch machete used in any type of combat that includes the jungle. The holder for the darts is a 50 cal machine gun holder. And then the knife was just a real nice, crazy hunting knife. The boots were just black combat boots from Vietnam era. So I was very accessible to where I could get it. And then I would mail it out to different people that would scarf it up. I mean, when I first got the shirt back the first time, it had 6 holes in it. And I said, no, it's 7. So I resent the picture and I circled each of the holes so that person could, create one more hole. The shirt has 7 in the front. And a lot of people don't get to see one, but you got to look really close and you'll see a blood spot for a 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say 95% accurate, even one guy who made the mask was a separate person all by themselves. The reason I say 95%, it's pretty much 100% accurate, but it's not screen worn. So I don't want to say it's 100%. But everything from the hood that was created by a guy out of Canada to the boots and the way everything is mirrored up and ripped. One guy all by himself was the one that actually did the darts.
Okay. Was it Kyle Hukalak from Canada?
Yes.
Yeah, he's very, very talented and very sought after. So hopefully one day I'll be able to get a Kyle hood for one of my costumes.
Yeah, I had to ask him, and he doesn't do a lot of them because they're time-consuming and expensive, but he did it for me. In fact, he's done it twice for me. First time was the regular hood. He did something for me a little over a year ago that I have not been able to wear yet, is he did the Jason maggot head
and
the hands to go with it.
Yeah, and it's incredible looking.
And I have not been able to do a wardrobe with it because of, unfortunately, what happened over the last year. But I do have, in fact, I know the gloves are sitting right there on my chair.
Oh, very nice.
So I have all that. And last year I was supposed to wear them both at Monster Mania and Texas Frightmare because everybody loves Maggot Head. It's not the mask, it's the hood. So it looks pretty good too. It's a little claustrophobic because when you get in there, it's tight, number one. You can't breathe very well, number two. And you got one eye. So you really got to take a deep breath before you get that hood on.
Exactly, yeah. So when did you attend your first horror convention? And at the time, did you think Friday the 13th had like a huge following?
No, I didn't. Actually, my first horror convention was myself, Laura Park Lincoln, and Kane Hodder. And it was probably back in 90, 89. And it was, it wasn't Monster Mania, but there's another one in New Jersey that's reasonably large, and I don't recall the name. It escapes me. It's still there.
It's not a Horrorcon?
Chiller. It would be Chiller Theater, I think, is the name of it.
Chiller, that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was the first one I ever did. My photos didn't arrive. You mail them to the hotel, and so I basically sat there and signed, but I signed everything for free.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
But I had no idea, that it would become what it is today. That was just I got the time off. I'll go ahead and go do it. It'd be fun. And that's where I met Laura Park Lincoln next to me and Kane Hodder.
CJ, you mentioned Kane a lot. I got to hear a story about you and Kane Hodder.
Who?
I got to hear a story with you and Kane.
Well, let me tell you a good story about Kane. Because him and I think of all the Jasons, I think he likes me the best because I give him a rash of shit. And I have no intent to take something away from what he's done. I'm not real competition is what I'm saying. I never was a stuntman actor. It wasn't my life. It wasn't my ambition. But I will tell you, I do mess with him. We did a Monster Mania a couple of years ago, and he likes to be in the corner by himself. He doesn't like to hang out with the rest of us. And he was over by the bathrooms in the tent. And if you've been there, there's a hall right next to his table. So I took one of my pictures, turned it around, and put Kane's office with arrows and put it above to the bathroom. And, people were laughing when they saw it. And finally somebody said, "Why does it say your office in the bathroom?" And the first thing he did was stand up and yelled across the tent area, "BJ, you asshole." So I do pick on him with love, but I also know that he cares about me. He's very complimentary in my performance. He's told people factually that I was originally slotted to do part 7, which I was, and that he is a horror fan. He really wanted the part, and he had to go talk to John, the director-writer who had worked with Kane historically, and convinced John, who then had to go to Paramount Studios to convince Paramount Studios to allow him to pick Jason instead of going back to me.
Oh, wow. So it was a process, man, because you were supposed to do part 7. He's not bitter about that, is he? Well, I mean, he got the part, obviously. So it's
no, he couldn't be bitter because it would be me being bitter because I was already slotted for.
Yeah, that's what I meant exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought you said it backwards. But
no, I did say it backwards. You're right. I'm all over the place.
I wasn't because again, going back to the question about when Jason guys, it was a job. I put a hockey mask on. Who knew? And I'll say it again. he's been such a great ambassador for 7, 8, 9, 10. I would have never done what he's done over the last 25 years. He's out there every weekend going to an event. I mean, that wouldn't be my thing, especially when, I wasn't a full-time actor or stunt person. So kudos to him.
Well, listen, Kane Hodder's my favorite Jason if he's on the show. But right now, CJ, you are. No, in all honesty, you are, man. And I appreciate, and I'm sure the fans do, appreciate your performance in part 6. But I do want to segue a little bit here. We got a segment on this show called the 2-minute drill. So I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of random questions, right? You have 2 minutes to answer these questions and give me the best CJ Graham answer. Let me know when you're ready to go, bud.
You don't want a Jason answer.
I want yeah, let's do that. Let's do
some of them might be Jason answers.
Yeah, some of them might be Jason answers. So let's do a
Brian,
Jason
watch
Voorhees.
This.
Yep.
Brian, watch this because he's going to step in it. Watch.
Oh, man.
All right, guys, I have the stopwatch ready. So
You ready?
We'll go on 3, 2, 1.
All right. Horror icon. All right. Favorite slasher. Jason, man.
I'm giving you my Jason answer. Can't you tell? I'm not.
I know exactly, Jason. Man, a few words.
You said Jason, so Jason doesn't talk. But anyway, go back to your first.
I stepped in it. I know I did. Let me correct myself.
CJ, I lock and loaded on you with that one. I set you up, punted it. You were on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was coming. I felt it. I'm like, he's not going to respond.
Well, let's start over. I apologize.
All right,
no worries. That was fun.
I just stopped it. I will start over. Hold on. All right, go.
Fine. Favorite horror icon.
Me.
Favorite slasher.
Me.
Weapon of choice.
Machete.
To remake or not to remake.
Do not remake. Continue.
Leprechaun versus Chucky. Who wins?
Oops.
Last great slasher film.
I don't think there's a last. Future.
Favorite psychological horror movie. Scariest horror movie you've seen.
I liked a good movie. I'm going to be honest with you on that one. I'm going to give you a better answer than just a quick answer. I really like going back to some of the horror movies, black and white, that were shot in the old days by Alfred Hitchcock.
Best horror voice.
That would have to be Chucky's.
Finish the line. All work and no play.
Always.
Favorite zombie flick.
Oh, that's Jason.
Universal monster of choice.
Universal horror figures. Frankenstein, Dracula, Werewolf, and Mummy.
Best horror franchise.
That's a no-brainer. I'd be embarrassed if I didn't say anything but Friday the 13th.
Favorite Friday the 13th.
Are there others?
Favorite, what about Nightmare on Elm Street? Favorite Nightmare on Elm Street? I don't know. That guy, some guy, Kruger, I don't know.
You know what? Guys, Kane Hodder always tells me, the guy's a pedophile. Why are we even talking about him?
You know,
no, I'm serious. I don't mean that disrespectful, but
it is true.
I never thought about it till Kane always says it. And
yes.
I thought, I guess that's true at the very first. So, whoops.
Oh, well, with that being said, best horror movie score.
Score? What do you mean score?
Theme.
Pardon me?
Like a horror movie theme.
Oh, theme. I'm sorry. I do have a hearing loss from the military. Theme. Anything out of the 80s. VHS.
And
Gotcha.
time.
Okay. So I got a couple of questions I'm going to ask CJ here. Who do you think is the ultimate scream queen?
Ooh, that's a good question because there's been so many now historically. I don't really have a good answer for that. There are so many good actresses, and now every once in a while an actor comes out and screams. Gosh, let me think about that. I don't know the answer to the question. I really don't, because every girl now that's in a horror movie screams.
That's true.
They really do. I mean, there are a couple that scream queens.
Do you have any final girl of choice?
I'm going to leave that one optional.
Okay. Now,
I don't want to mislead and say one if I don't really know definitively, because then I'd have to backtrack and that'd be embarrassing.
how would you want to die in a horror movie?
Quickly.
And then the last question here is any horror movie crush you had when you were younger?
Not a horror movie. You mean like on a girl or
yeah. Well, I mean, your preference.
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. On a girl? No, but you know what? I always thought the lady in Weird Science was badass.
Oh wow,
Kelly
Weird
LeBrock.
Bill's
Science.
ex-wife.
Yeah.
I don't remember her
Yeah.
name, but
Wow.
what a pretty lady.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, we have a not so much a question, but just a compliment from our audience. My wife Irene.
Hi,
Oh,
she
Irene.
okay.
she follows your wife on TikTok, and she just wanted to compliment on your beautiful ranch and all your animals.
You know, my wife has a TikTok. She's Ruby. She loves it, and don't laugh, but I mean, she's got a few of them. She had one that was a guy that came to a convention and didn't realize the impact he was going to have that she videotaped, and the guy had a body which was Linda Blair. All right, and she's attached to his hip. When it looks cool, but Ruby took it and added some screaming music to it, and
Mm.
it had over 4 million hits.
Oh wow, I'll have to
Wow.
check that one out.
And then she had one, it was just a simple one of me with a cowboy hat walking my horse. That's my guy.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
had over 1 million hits.
Yeah.
And then she does things with our horses, you know, they're squeaking like pigs when they eat, or alpacas. So she's always very creative, you know. So I got to give it to Ruby because she loves doing it and she's just very good at it.
Shout out to Ruby and TikTok and CJ. Do you jump on there and do some of these dances that they got going on over
You
there in
never
the
know.
TikTok dance? Oh,
I did one about a year ago when everybody. It was a TikTok of me in full wardrobe without the mask, sitting in a lounge chair, and remember because we were all confined for 2-3 weeks
yeah.
and watching TV with the remote, and then it showed me out back when it was over taking a slash at the screen.
I
And
did
she
see
was
that,
able
yeah.
to put blood on it, and it lasted for a couple 3 days, and then they took it down.
Oh, why did Jesus?
Well, I don't know. They
Everything
have
is-
some unusual. I think it's more of a personal preference. Whoever decided, they thought it was violent, but then they have all these other things on there that are like really bad. So
Mhm.
it's just me stepping from behind a bush, slicing a machete at you. Big deal.
It's so
Yeah.
sensitive nowadays, CJ. It's a different world we live in right now. And you know, with that being said, I got to ask you, what advice would CJ Graham 2021 give CJ Graham 1986?
I don't know if I changed anything because I've been very good about being PC, politically correct, all my life. I've never been. I don't look at people, and I've always said I don't care if you're purple, green, or blue, and I don't care if you're from Pluto, Venus, or Mars. There's good people and there's goofy people.
That's true. I agree with you, man.
So, and I don't. I've never, been brought up either way. Some things are confusing to me. I'm like, what? I don't get it. You know what? 86, I was still pretty much the same person. I learned that going back to 74 in the military, and it kind of sets precedents of what kind of human being you're going to be from that point on. One of the things I can tell you, I'm very proud that, some of the executives that have worked for me and I promoted into general manager spots. One of them is in Southern California, and two of them are in Northern California. And the three of them are general managers, chief operating officers now of their own billion-dollar resorts.
Very nice.
I got to tell you, CJ, thank you. Not only for the interview, but our conversation, because you're very humble and you're a great businessman.
Thanks.
So I respect that and I appreciate that and the advice that you gave me off air as well. For somebody to do that, it means a lot because, a lot of people, to be very blunt, they just don't care, and you actually, judging by your conversation, you showed that. You showed that you cared and that, again, you're a great businessman, dude. So I appreciate it. And you taking the time. And I want to give you the floor right now. If there's anything that you want to plug right now, any social media links, anything that you got coming up over the next month or so that you want to plug right now. Floor is yours.
For all the folks at Horror 365, I appreciate you having me on. I'm very humbled that 3 decades later we're still talking about this. I mean, a lot of you weren't even born when this movie came out. We do have shows this year, hopefully, if everything goes forward. Monster Mania, Texas Nightmare, Spooky Empire, and a few others throughout the year. So hopefully we'll get back into the dynamics. I'm just more appreciative for what they've come through and given to me in return. And I just try to give it back. I mean, one thing about a business side, if I'm successful, you're successful. And if we are successful, I always try to give those simple things. Like I said, qualify, quantify, simplify. If you can just think of those as a business, you got to be successful. And I always tell people how simple this is. You know those people that always say me, 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 me? Y'all know some, right? Me,
Oh,
me.
a lot of them. A lot of them. Yep.
Well, how hard is it to take an M, turn it upside down, it becomes we?
That's good. I'm going to use that in my next staff meeting.
Why is it got to be
Exactly.
But my point is, why is it got to be complicated?
Right.
Selfish people sometimes,
And I've been lucky. I will tell you, luck is part of my career. But I will tell you, I'm not necessarily negative or a fan or not of the educational value. But I have a high school diploma.
Okay. And there's not a damn thing wrong with that. Look how successful you are with a high school diploma. People like to judge.
I have a high school diploma, an honorable discharge from the military, and I was extremely successful as an executive. So I just work hard. And again, sometimes you get lucky, but you do have to produce. Otherwise, they will reduce.
Mm-hmm. That's facts, CJ. Speaking of business and doing business, now while we're at it, we might as well throw it out there because it's going to be unveiled by the time this comes out. It's August 13th, the only Friday the 13th of this year. Mr. CJ Graham is going to be live. Live where? Yeah, baby. Blairstown.
I would say Blairstown, USA, but it's in New Jersey. And it happens to be the home of the very first Friday the 13th with Ari. And Tom Savini did his work in that, of course. And Mr. Cunningham and Mr. Miller were all involved. It just happens to be where there's a wonderful museum downtown Blairstown. And I understand they got some great schools there also.
They do. They have a lot of great things. And, well, another great thing that's going to be added to the town on the 13th of August is you, Mr. CJ Graham, going to be there for meet and greets, photo ops, more details to follow, folks. You're going to be seeing on the Eventbrite listed there. But he's going to be there. And, CJ, man, I know the fans, they're waiting. It's been a long time since we had some sort of convention of some sort. This is not a convention, but when CJ Graham comes into town, you have to be there. It's a must-see. And I appreciate you actually coming on out on Friday the 13th. To me, Friday the 13th is a holiday, and I'm sure it is to you guys as well.
Yeah, well, it's going to be great for, not just the Blairstown because it has historical value to the franchise, but also the only Friday the 13th this year. And, of course, we're coming up on that 35-year window, August 1st. So it's kind of nice to segment into the Part 6 in Blairstown, New Jersey. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and not only, is it great that you're going to come to Blairstown, but this event is also going to be a fundraiser for the museum because during the past year of COVID, unfortunately, the Historical Museum and the Friday the 13th Museum have not been able to put off any events. So that's why Jimmy and I wanted to put something together to help Jeanette Ayurato because even, a penny is more than they had previously. And she's ecstatic to have you come back. And, I'm counting down the times already. I already got it in my phone, and I'm like, is it Friday the 13th yet? Is it Friday the 13th yet? So it's gonna be a great time.
Great. I appreciate the invite, Jimmy J. Hey, buddy. I think we got a shirt in the name, though. Jimmy J. How about you, JJ?
You gotta say Dynamite.
They call me JJ, Jimmy J. They call me, a ruggedly handsome individual with these melodious tones, CJ, just piping right now through the speakerphone here. I'm blessed.
I'm hoping your microphone's not on right now.
Oh, it is. I'm in trouble. I got to edit.
No, you're not. You're just going to put it out there heavier for you, buddy. But again, Horror 365, thank you for your time. Thank you for the invite. And I look forward to seeing everybody Friday the 13th in August at Blairstown, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Horror 365, Horror Heads. This is the man behind the mask, the man with multiple layers, CJ Graham, one of the greatest of all time to ever put on the hawk. Here he is, Patreon exclusive. I want to thank everybody for listening. As always, you can find us on all audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google. Of course, if you're watching these ruggedly handsome guys, it's on YouTube, youtube.com/JimmyJ Entertainment. And of course, patreon.com. It's only $3 a month, folks, $3. It's less than a cup of coffee. $3. Patreon.com/JimmyJ Entertainment. We got a lot of cool things coming your way. And we are signing out with the man behind the mask. Part 6. Jason lives. He's alive, and he will be alive in Blairstown, August 13th, Mr. CJ Graham.